Story time. Okay, so I moved out to Maine about almost 2 years ago. And I moved here mostly because of word of mouth. It was supposed to be a beautiful place, and I wanted to see the foliage. It was supposed to be this like natural, gorgeous landscape of Maine. I needed like a change of scenery for myself. I lived in Wisconsin for like my entire life. Despite the fact that I do travel often, I never had a driver's license from a different state. So I moved out here. I was looking for grad school, and I happened to find one in Maine. I applied. I got in, so I was like, why not? That made the move. I drove like 24 hours to get here. And I was like, okay, this is going to be my new life now. I'm going to school. I'm going to focus on my art. I'm going to figure out where I stand, and that I did. When I got here, me and my mom moved out here. So we ended up staying in a hotel. And I thought we'd probably be there for, around a week, to find a place. So we got here and we stayed in the hotel, and we went out, started putting in applications, looking at apartments, and it was just one after the other. We couldn't understand why it was so difficult for us to rent a place. It didn't make any sense because, one, both of us had great credit. I believe I had a 720. I think my mother's was somewhere around 700, 715, something like that. Our combined saved income, or savings, was over 10,000, and it was enough to rent a place, I would say, for a year. And I couldn't understand. And the excuses that we got is that we're both unemployed, and I'm a grad student. Therefore, they not want to rent to us, which didn't make any sense, because we've never been evicted from any place. We had good credit. We had money. And it wasn't difficult for me to find a job. And I was in school. So I don't understand why that was their excuse. I'd like to talk about a particular experience that I had. We went to a rental agency almost around the Scarborough area. And we went up to the door. We knocked on the door. We're waiting there. And here comes this old white lady. And I hate to say old, like she was really old, maybe she was like 45, 50, something like that. And she had a curling iron in her hair, and she opened the door screaming at us, waving her hand, saying, "We don't have anything for your kind here," and just slammed the door in my face. And I was just straight up dumbfounded. I was just like, I have never been at a loss of words. I literally just stood there, staring at the door. My mom was like, "Let's get the hell out of here." I was just like, what was that? Me being young and for some reason my mind went to like a young, naive state. Like, why would she say that? Like, what did she mean by our kind? Or I'm like, clearly she was a blatant racist. Okay, and then it clicked for me. I was just like, is this why it's been so difficult? And I hate to just seem like completely like, I don't know, dumbfounded, a nitwit, or whatever. Because Maine is, the whitest state in the United States. I think it's battling it out, actually, with Vermont. So it's like, this is why we haven't been able to rent a place, We have good credit, we have money, but we happen to have brown faces. So that was the issue. So eventually, after living in a hotel for almost 2 weeks, school was about to start for me. I was in a panic because I didn't have a home, or at least a stable, permanent home. So we found one place that would rent to us. It was a month-to-month basis. The rent was ridiculous for what it was, almost dilapidated bungalow, and the landlord did these really ghetto makeovers, I guess you could say, and jacked the rent up. But it was fine. We could afford it. At least this person wanted to rent to us. So we ended up staying in this place for about 3 months. And then after that, when I had a job, I was in school, we still had money. Our credit score, however, did go down because we put in about a dozen applications. Now, for those of you that do not know, when you apply for renting a place, your landlord checks your credit, and the more often your credit is checked, your credit score goes down. So despite the fact we had good credit when we moved out here, we no longer do. So I feel like this is part of the reason why it's so difficult for people of color to rent anywhere. Despite the fact we do have good credit, it from straight up ignorance and racism brings our credit down and therefore makes it more difficult for us to rent places. And by us, I mean people of color, okay? So that was my experience moving out to Maine. Do I plan on staying here? No. I didn't expect that. I thought, moving to Maine would be like a great new start my career, as an artist. And though that is starting to take off, I have no intention of staying here. Because it's not a good feeling to live in a state where you don't feel welcomed. Especially when, it's just blatant. It's just clearly obvious, So that was my experience as a black woman in Maine. Anywho, I don't know how long. Well, this video seems kind of long, so let's do some more chatting. What should we talk about? Watercolors. Why not? Let's talk about art. It's for watercolors. I have a love-hate relationship with watercolors. I've always wanted to get into it. I wanted to get my watercoloring skills up to my oil painting skills, which I've practiced for years. Because, watercolors, I guess, remind me of, like, youthfulness. I like the transparency of the medium. It just makes me feel like I'm reading, like, children's books, which I love. I love how they look. But anyways, back to my relationship with watercolors. I decided to take a class during my undergrad in Wisconsin. And it wasn't more so of a decision, but a requirement. I had to take another painting course. And I was like, okay, great. I'll take watercolors then. I really wanted to prove my skills. So I go to class, and I have this teacher. I forget her name. She's become that irrelevant. I'm like, why make an effort, honestly? But my experience in that class was horrendous. I have never felt that terrible about myself as a student in a classroom because of the way I was treated by the teacher. And it wasn't just me, There was a Korean girl in the class, and she felt the same way. This teacher, she would not answer any of our questions. She told me if I needed help with anything, look on YouTube. Now, I'm paying to take this class, mind you. So if I'm going to have to teach myself from YouTube videos, what the hell am I doing here? And why am I paying you? I wanted a refund, be honest with you. So anyways, I sit through this class. I had no other option, so I had to take it. And every painting that I done, she had no comment during critique. We barely just brushed over, my work and, the other brown girls' work too. And I was just so confused. Like, why does this teacher act this way? And it was obvious. I'm like, clearly she's just a fucking racist, And, during our midterm critique, I did this awesome painting. I thought it was pretty cool. It was, the Lady of Salmon Thrace, or Nike, I guess, whatever people want to call it. And it was kind of a satire, because I did that juxtaposed to, what was his name? Salvador Dali. I decided to do these giant, unrealistic pieces of fruit, just rotten, and they're being thrown in this like Romanesque, I guess, building at the Nike statue. And they're just like hanging all over the place. It's totally surreal and unrealistic. But it was painted beautifully, And so during the midterm crit, this teacher, her comments and actions were disgusting. She she did. She patted me on the head and said, "Good girl," like a fucking dog. And I was so disgusted and angry. I've never felt so much tension in my chest before that I just got up and left the classroom, because hadn't I probably would have went to the ghetto on her, okay? So that's my experience with watercolors. I guess using watercolors for me can be considered a revolutionary act. I'm standing up to the way I was treated. So I'm still going to work on it. I'm still going to work on improving my skills and not let that teacher stop me from doing so. Wow. So there's 2 stories for you. Come back for next time. Who knows? Who knows what we'll talk about next.